Race Club for the local thoroughbred breeding and racing industry. We've had the opportunity to speak with our bookmaker, a friend and Desert Race Club committee man Wayne Gannon, literally only seconds ago, and Wayne has come up with a couple of runners this afternoon at Doomben in Brisbane that he thought might perform reasonably well. Our contributors, Wayne and Shane Galinsky, both contribute each morning and only managed one placing each last week, so they're looking for a better result today. The ones that Wayne has drawn attention to in Doomben today started off in race 2, number 10, How Wonderful Life Is. It's a great name for a horse, isn't it? Race 2, number 10. Race 3, number 8, he liked Power Command. He thought that was an each-way proposition, could run a place if it didn't win. He was keen on, in race 6, number 9, Bold Chance, also similarly likely to run well, and thought it might be an each-way proposition. And in race 8, he liked number 2, Light Up the Room. Race 8, number 2, Light Up the Room, again as an each-way proposition. That was Wayne's contribution literally seconds ago, and he was a very busy boy this morning. It's very difficult at this time of the morning getting his scratchings and other information worked out for the day. Talking to Shane Galinsky, our local trainer, Shane Galinsky, in the dead of night last night. Shane had a number of selections last week, but only managed one placing as well. Back for more this morning, however. And Shane's selection started off with 2 in Brisbane. In race 8, he liked number 12, Word for Word. Race 8, number 12. In race 9, he liked 12 Big Boy, one of his old favourites, number 4 in race 9 in Brisbane today, 12 Big Boy. At Randwick today, a big day at Randwick today, the Sydney meeting, he liked race 5, number 13, Emperor's Way. Race 5, number 13, and he finished his day in Melbourne with race 8, number 8, Plain CL, and I think in some other language that means clear sky. Plain CL, race 8, number 8 in Melbourne. The past week, of course, was highlighted by the fairy tale ending to the career of the world's greatest racehorse currently racing, with the performance of Winx in Sydney. It was a historic day. 40,000 people at Randwick drawn to the meeting there by Winx last Saturday. I've been at Randwick on a crowd of 30,000 and they were packed like sardines, so it must have been a pretty tight crowd there last Saturday for that wonderful end of career performance by Winx. It was a great diversion and a fairy tale ending, a great diversion from some of the other contentious issues surrounding the industry at the present time. Results locally are hard to achieve. There's the trainers working very hard to get into the winner's circle, and there's not a lot of results coming in, successful results, but there were some good performances during the week by local Desert trainers and the great efforts they put into preparing their horses for the owners. And in the course of the week, last week, nothing came out of the Metropolitan meeting at Eagle Farm, but the contingent went to the Gold Coast, and there were some results came in there with local trainer Ben Robinson achieving a very good third at the Gold Coast with Holeless Bowlers last week. Diane Murphy, Diane's a great traveller. She attends a lot of meetings around the southeast corner and northern rivers, and Diane picked up a very good second at the Gold Coast last Saturday with Glenn Ord. Ben Aarons also picked up a second with Miss Amanda, and Ben managed a fourth, a minor prize money check at the Gold Coast also with Only Ever Annie. We mentioned last week the Kilcoy meeting last Saturday, and it's the first time in my memory that I can recall a Kilcoy meeting at which there were no Desert runners. It's very unusual for Kilcoy not to be patronised by local trainers, but that was the case last Saturday. However, a big contingent went over the border to Lismore, and Ben Robinson picked up a second there at Lismore with Sportini. Greg Cornish managed a minor prize money check, a fourth prize money check with that well-performed horse of his, Voanabar. Voanabar's been racing extremely well for Greg in recent times. Ben Robinson managed a third at Lismore with Alfie Jr., but the big performance at Lismore came from Ray Litton. Ray prepared Send Us a Sign that managed to get into the winner's circle at Lismore last Saturday. It was a great performance and a very good effort by Ray Lytton preparing that horse for that particular event. And still travelling was Diane Murphy at Lismore again, with a second. She managed a second there with Mashani Phoenix. So good outcome at that Lismore meeting during the week, the last weekend. Grafton meetings and Ipswich during the week didn't produce anything. And summing up the week, and we usually like to mention the start of the week, and it's almost self-selected this week with Ray Lytton's performance at Lismore, preparing to send us a sign for the winner's circle. So Ray gets our special mention as the star performer of the trainers for the week, and that result would send us the sign as a very good performance on Ray's behalf, preparing that horse for that Lismore meeting. We get around to this weekend and the coming week, and we've got travellers today. The big meeting at Doomben today. We're on the fringe of the Winter Carnival. It hasn't started yet, but it's getting very close. And Darlene Duray is the only Desert trainer tackling the big Saturday Metropolitan meeting at Doomben today. Very tough up there. Competition now is very, very hard, and Diane's taking Anna Time up there for race 4, number 9 at a time at Doomben today. It's interesting to see the impact of the southern trainers who are venturing to Queensland and opening up stables here in Queensland. A very attractive influx for the local economy, and the number of southern trainers setting up their stables, their extended stables in Queensland at the moment is they're quite prolific, and there's a lot of them. For example, in Brisbane today, in race 5, it's a big race, it's a $125,000 prize money race. There are 11 acceptors there today running in that race. 7 of those horses are trained by Australia's leading trainer, Chris Waller of Winx fame. 7 of those 11 horses are trained by Chris Waller, another one trained by a southern trainer as well. So that's a good indication of the impact that the southern invasion of trainers is having on the Queensland racing industry. At the Gold Coast today, we see James Hepworth travelling to the Gold Coast with the contingent going down there today. In race 4, James has prepared We Want It All, race 4, number 15. Mark Palmer is also in that race, competing there with Normanton, race 4, number 7 at the Gold Coast. Race 4 at the Gold Coast, number 7 was in Normanton for Mark Palmer. Race 7 at the Gold Coast today, you see 12 runners there, 12 acceptors. There are 7 emergencies, and would you believe 4 of those emergencies are those desert trained horses. Very disappointing for the trainers that put the work into getting these horses ready for a race and then finding themselves balloted out. And unless there's a lot of scratchings, these trainers won't get a run with those horses today. There's 4, it's almost like a conspiracy. There's 4 Bay Desert horses there have been balloted out into the emergencies for that race there this afternoon. And that's race 7 at the Gold Coast. Ben Robinson has got Mr. Kylan accepted there along with Immune in the same race. And Kelvin Hickmont in the same race has Lady Mossman and the Ponster. And it's highly probable that none of those horses will get a run in that race. Still in race 8 at the Gold Coast, we see Twilight Manoeuvre trained there. It's also an emergency, I might add, but the possibility of getting a run there is greater for James Hepworth. He may have enough scratchings to get a run there. And in the last race at the Gold Coast, Glenn Baker is taking Sultry Tester down there. Race 9, number 9, Sultry Tester. So quite a lot of interest from the Bay Desert training fraternity at the Gold Coast today. There's a country meeting at Nanango today, and we've got Ben Aarons travelling to Nanango with race 2, number 4. That's not a TAB meeting, I might add, but at race 2, Ben hopes to get up there with Gnarly Charlie, race 2, number 4. At Toowoomba on Easter Monday, the races up there in Toowoomba on Monday will be patronised by Di Murphy. Again, Di, a great traveller, heading to Toowoomba in race 6, number 8, Atoka Picta. And in Toowoomba still on Monday, race 7, Dashing Ocean, prepared by Ben Robinson, is race 7, number 8. And Ben's also got Immune, number 12, in that same race. race 7, that's all on Monday. Don't forget to keep in touch with the activities of the industry and Bow Desert Racing in particular on the Facebook site for this program, facebook.com/racing radio show. We'll get a lot of information, there's a wealth of information going onto that site, and a very informative site for the local racing and breeding industry. The Bow Desert Race Club website also, bowdesertraceclub.com, will give you a good indication of the upcoming events and what's planned for the Bow Desert calendar as we talk about it at the Sunshine Coast. We then go to the Sunshine Coast tomorrow, I think that is. The runners going to the Sunshine Coast, Di Murphy is a dual acceptor there over the weekend with race 2, number 4 at the Sunshine Coast, and in race 8 at the Sunshine Coast, Ben Aarons has accepted with King Luther, number 16. The upcoming dates for the Bow Desert Race Club, some very important dates for the diary here. We've got the big Anzac Day meeting. It's usually one of our biggest, if not the biggest meeting for the Bow Desert Race Club, coming up on Thursday this week, Anzac Day afternoon. It's a great way to spend a relaxing social afternoon after the formalities of the morning Anzac services, and that meeting on Thursday promised to be one of the best meetings at Bow Desert for a long time. There's 165 nominations for that meeting, so there's going to be very full fields. It's been extremely well patronised by local trainers, 15 local trainers running horses at that meeting on Thursday. It'll be a great afternoon now. There's a great opportunity. A lot of people are making a short week of it, or a long weekend of it next week with the holiday on Thursday, and a great opportunity for visitors to the Scenic Rim to patronise that meeting and have a social afternoon on Anzac Day, and leading them into a long weekend in the wonders of the Scenic Rim. So some great opportunity for tourist patronage there in that upcoming weekend next week, or this coming week, and on Anzac Day Thursday, and followed on by the next weekend racing the Hibernian Race Club, the local Bow Desert Hibernian Race Club, and its charity meeting once a year. That club races and uses the facilities of the Bow Desert Race Club. That's on Saturday the 18th of May. Tremendous amount of work, a very, very hard working committee there for the Hibernian Club. Will put on a great meeting on that Saturday the 18th of May. Over a long period of time, the Hibernian Club has raised a lot of money for charity, including the major charities like Queensland Cancer Council, and that hard-working committee have got that meeting scheduled for Saturday the 18th of May. The Desert Cup meeting comes up then on the 22nd of June. That's another, that is in the middle of the Winter Racing Carnival in Queensland. It's a great meeting, that Desert Cup meeting, and it times very effectively into the middle of the major Queensland Racing Winter Carnival. The meetings of the Bow Desert Race Club, of course, now are promoted and administered by the Gold Coast Turf Club, and they're doing a great job and planning a great promotion for both of those meetings, the Anzac Day meeting and the Bow Desert Cup meeting, under the administration and running and promotion by the Gold Coast Turf Club. It should be a great opportunity to patronise those facilities, the wonderful facilities at the Bow Desert Racetrack for those upcoming meetings. It's a great afternoon this afternoon for another lounge room day at the races, a big racing activity in Sydney. There's 5 group races, black type races there, including 2 Group 1 races at Randwick this afternoon. Very good follow-up to last weekend's big meeting. And that meeting at Randwick this afternoon with 5 group races, including 2 black type Group 1 races, including the All-Age Stakes and the Champagne Stakes. Those races have got a tremendous history. There's first run, both of them, the All-Age Stakes and the Champagne Stakes, were first run in Sydney in 1866, so there's 153 years of history there being promoted at Sydney this afternoon. There's also 2 group races in Melbourne on the Victorian racing scene this afternoon as well. So great opportunity to enjoy a Saturday afternoon lounging day at the races. Hopefully, as we finish the program this morning, we can sign off and hopefully say that when we come back on again this time next week, we'll be able to talk about some good outcomes from some of those results that we talked about the runners performing this afternoon. So with that, we'll do the usual sign off and thank the listeners for having us at their place, and look forward to talking to you again on FM 101.5 at this time next Saturday morning.